Alright, here's my trial of using some cheap jewelry resin, UV curing. It's about $25 to $40 for a quart compared to the 150, 170, 200, whatever it is for the proper woodworking stuff. And so I did a few tests. First thing I did was just try to apply it straight, and it had a consistency of about like epoxy. You can see how relatively thick this is. This is 2 coats of basically full strength. And I'll show smearing that in a little bit. And then I thought that was a little extra thick, kind of plasticky, like a lot of polyurethane kind of thickness. And so on the other side, I put a solid coat of it, and then I just did a wipe coat on top of that. Did some Googling and found that some people that make fly fishing lures use this kind of stuff. And one of the guys on one of the little chat forums basically said he diluted his with rubbing alcohol and basically made a wipe on, and that it actually cures fine. So I gave that a whirl. And so this is probably 70% alcohol mixed with some of the resin. And then I started doing wipe on tests. And this guy here is about 4 coats of wipe on. And just on the edge there is nothing. And then there's a single coat. You can see there's basically no sheen, just basically penetrates into the wood only. And over here is the 4 coats. It sanded absolutely fine, sanded to the 320, didn't gum it up, no problems at all. And over here, I did a test of the one on the left is nothing. That one, the next one is just stain, oil-based stain. And then I have oil-based stain, and immediately, at 5 seconds after wiping it off, I put on wipe-on coats. This side over here, first I'd applied sanding sealer on both of these, let it dry for about an hour, went and had dinner. Came back. On the right-hand side is just the sanding sealer and stain. And then here, these 2 in the middle are the ones that I applied the resin to. And there's 4 or 5 coats, I forget exactly which, but basically wipe on. And I sanded it halfway through with 320, applied a little more. And it basically applies exactly like regular wipe on poly. And I didn't do a great job. I was only using this. I didn't want to waste the brush on just the test. So it's just got cheap little rags. So you can see some, quote, brush marks in it, right? But otherwise, it goes on pretty well. So I could do a little test or a demonstration, I guess. So here is the thickness of it when it's just straight. You can see it basically is like an epoxy style thickness. And before I spread that out, well, actually I'll just go ahead and spread it out now. So this stuff, see, it's basically spreading epoxy, and it will spread, but it doesn't have, unless you went super thick, like dome level thick, it's not going to level. And that was the problem that I was having with it, and that's why I wanted to try figuring out some way to thin it out so it had a little more leveling ability. It might be better with a brush, but honestly I kind of doubt it, just because, I mean, just if you try to make a thin coat of epoxy, it is not going to work well. And it will work just like, let me push this button so I can touch the other stuff. So here's a little flashlight I bought. It does 2 different wavelengths, and oops, let me show you. And you can actually feel the warmth whenever you put yourself in front of it. But just curing my fingers real quick. And bring this over here, and this guy will actually, see if we can get some of the bubble pictures, we'll actually pop some of the bubbles. Just like it would with epoxy. I did it on there a second too long, but you get the gist. And one last quick little thing is just the wipe on. Again, it's basically just 70% alcohol-ish. I didn't really measure or do anything special for the test. And it applies just like a regular wipe on poly. Soaks into the wood because it's mostly alcohol. And, 'cause it's mostly alcohol. And, you know, it just, it's 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 there's that. So show you the curing. Again, I'll cure my fingers first, and this is all that it takes to get it so that your fingers aren't sticky, even though I just dipped them in epoxy effectively. And same deal, curing this. Of course, the coat over here will take a little longer than just the skim coat over here. This is all we needed to cure that. And then over here, this one takes another 20 seconds or so. And I just bought a little light for my initial tests. They did have much larger lights, and they weren't a whole lot more expensive, but you know, this guy was kind of nice because it was USB-C rechargeable and did 2 different wavelengths, both at the same time. So it was a good, I guess, combination of features is why I picked this one. But so there's that, and like I said, this stuff is already dry. Same thing, already dry, doesn't gum up. So this stuff, I'm impressed with it. I think I'm actually gonna go ahead and continue using it on a project. Using an actual brush to get rid of the brush strokes would be ideal, but the speed of that, I was able to do, like I said, 4 or 5 coats on this in 10 minutes, maybe. The coats only take that long. Now I can apply more immediately, and it just basically goes right on there, no issues. I am clearly not a YouTuber, by the way, but share some information regardless. And so put another coat on there, cure my fingers. My fingers are now gooey, and now they're not. And I did notice that when I was doing it over the stain, that I felt like I needed to do a little bit longer. Probably because the wood isn't radiating light back quite like it does whenever the wood is white, like this bare birch here. But so now it's already dry enough where you can do your scuff sands. I don't have a good base at the moment with only one hand, but you get the idea. So it sands immediately. That one might have actually should have been a minute longer, so kind of rushing it for the video a little bit. But yeah, you can actually see somewhere it was still a little wet in the corner. But if I were paying a little more attention, that would be all you would need. So overall, anyway, I'm impressed. Kind of long video, but that's the gist of it. They did sell, here's this light, by the way. Has this stuff likes to cure with 395. They usually say 390 to 410, something like that. This one has a 395 bulb, and it has whatever this other one says, 365. So you can turn it on both at the same time. It's just got, I can't really show you, but it's got 2 LEDs in it effectively, one for each wavelength. And charged at USB-C. It has a little battery indicator on it in the middle there, so those 2 little lights are to tell you how much battery is left. They sell this stuff in whole quarts, half quarts. I just bought a half quart of this, and I particularly picked one that was divvied up by and came in multiple containers. Each one comes with the regular lid on it. Peel that off or spin that off, and then you got aluminum sealed bottle underneath that you have to pop. And so these guys should have a good shelf life. And the one I opened, will be lessened, but at least I'm only using a little product at a time. And I've hardly used any. All of these tests, the level's somewhere like around there. What else was I going to say? So this particular brand, the JDiction, this one and Let's Resin I've watched jewelry people comparing brands because nobody else was doing this with woodworking. But the jewelry people seem to appreciate this brand when they're doing their tests, particularly with the yellowing over time. This was really low odor. My wife, who normally hates woodworking smells, which was the main motivation for this, had no problem. She could run here, couldn't even smell it. It has a slight epoxy smell when it's cured, when it's liquid, and then after cure it, you smell nothing. During the cure, you get a little bit of VOC smell kind of feel, but it's really only when the light is actually on it. But after that, there's nothing. And this brand has another formulation that is lower viscosity, also have a higher viscosity, but I think this one's already a little too thick for us. And these diluted. They had to have a lower viscosity one that you could use, and it might be just right for this. But in my opinion, it wasn't worth buying because just diluting yourself with the alcohol is completely fine. I had no issues with curing, and that was okay. The one last thing I was going to do was see about adhesion, I should say. And so what I was going to do is, my curiosity is just going to like flake off the wood. And so just out of curiosity, give it a couple whaps. And it didn't. My concern was like if you would get like basically whiteness under it from air getting under it, because it didn't actually stick to the wood, and then it would start flaking up all around like an old epoxy bar table or something like that. But actually it does look pretty good. It didn't do that at all. I was worried I'd be able to just get my fingernail under there and just start flaking it all away, but no, I dented the wood, of course, right? Just cheap pine, but no, that's better than I thought I was going to do, especially the thick one, because this was that full strength double thickness. Turned out just fine. Doesn't flake up. I don't see any white edges, no cracks or anything like that you would see if you whacked an epoxy table or something. All right, yeah, so anyway, I'm impressed, and this stuff actually does seem viable. Sands well, because I sanded all these things, didn't go up until, of course, I showed you, and I sanded a wet spot, but other than that, sands just like polyurethane, and I would recommend it. I'm going to keep trying it out, but I would encourage others, especially, I guess, dedicated YouTubers that are going to spend a good bit of time trying this out, do lots more experiments. I would encourage them to give this a whirl and see how it goes.